A spiral carved in stone whispers the same story in Ireland and Mexico. These are the 33 silent messengers, a hidden language of symbols connecting every ancient culture on Earth. By the end of this video, you will see history not as separate chapters, but as a single, interconnected story. We will uncover why a symbol of rebirth appears in Egyptian tombs and on Minoan pottery, and how a geometric pattern found in China also guided the builders of the Great Pyramid. These 33 motifs reveal a shared human understanding of life, death, and the cosmos that transcends all boundaries. What forgotten truth about our own past do you think these symbols are trying to tell us? A snail's shell holds the entire universe in its curve. This is the first messenger, the spiral of eternal return, and it is far more than a simple shape. It is an ancient, silent declaration that everything moves in cycles. Life gives way to death, which in turn gives rise to new life. The seasons turn, the stars wheel overhead, and the spiral captures this fundamental rhythm of existence. In Ireland, the massive stone passage tomb of Newgrange is older than the pyramids. On its entrance stone, a magnificent triple spiral is carved deep into the rock. For just a few minutes each year, at the dawn of the winter solstice, a shaft of sunlight pierces the inner darkness and illuminates this very symbol. It is a dramatic, engineered moment where the sun, at its weakest point, promises its own return and the rebirth of the land. Thousands of miles away, on the island of Crete, the same spiral dances across pottery from the Minoan civilization. It winds around vases and frescoes, a vibrant echo of the same idea. This was not merely decoration. Scholar Mircea Eliade saw this pattern repeated in shamanic traditions across the globe, where the spiral represented a path to other worlds, a conduit for the soul's journey into the spirit realm and back again. It is a map of the cosmos with its spinning galaxies, and a map of our own inner journey through different states of being. That the same intricate symbol appears in the dark, solstice-aligned chamber of Newgrange and on the sun-drenched art of the Minoans tells us something profound. These cultures, separated by vast oceans and millennia, arrived at the same intuitive understanding. They saw the universe not as a straight line progressing toward an end, but as a great turning wheel. And if the spiral is the path of that turning wheel, then the circle is its very center, its unshakable heart. At the heart of the turning wheel lies the unbroken circle. This second messenger is a ring with no beginning and no end, a perfect geometric statement of unity, wholeness, and the eternal. It is a symbol that transcends the physical to speak of the divine. Perhaps its most potent ancient form is the Ouroboros, the serpent forever consuming its own tail. Found in Egyptian and later Greek alchemical texts, this powerful image perfectly encapsulates the concept of eternity and self-sufficiency, a cycle where creation and destruction are one and the same. The idea of the sacred circle echoes across the world. In numerous Native American traditions, the sacred hoop or medicine wheel represents the entire cycle of life and the profound interconnectedness of all living things. It is a model of the universe and a guide for living in harmony with it. This universal appeal is etched into the very landscape. The colossal stone circle of Stonehenge stands as a silent, monolithic testament to the circle's power, its arrangement potentially mapping the movements of the sun and moon. Meanwhile, in Hindu and Buddhist practices, the mandala serves as both a tool for deep meditation and a breathtakingly intricate representation of the cosmos. These elaborate circles are maps of the soul's journey toward enlightenment, a visual prayer of cosmic order. How did these diverse cultures, from the British Isles to the Himalayas, encode such a complex, shared understanding of perfection and the infinite into their structures and art? The answer may lie not in a shared language, but in a shared mathematics, a universal code known as sacred geometry. This code finds its most fundamental expression in a pattern so common, we walk past it every day without a second thought. These architects saw the world not as chaotic, but as a perfect mathematical order. They believed the universe itself was constructed from a divine blueprint, a language of shapes and ratios they called sacred geometry. This was not simple measurement, it was a spiritual science. The Greek philosopher Plato described 5 perfect solid shapes, which he believed were the very templates for the elements of earth, air, fire, water, and the cosmos itself. This idea was physically manifested in the staggering precision of the Great Pyramid of Giza, a structure whose base perimeter divided by its height gives a value astonishingly close to 2 times pi, a fundamental constant of circles. The builders were encoding cosmic truths into stone. One of the most profound patterns in this sacred language is the flower of life. It appears as a complex, beautiful mosaic of perfectly overlapping circles, a snowflake-like pattern of exquisite symmetry. Carved into the granite walls of the Temple of Osiris in Abydos, Egypt, its origins are lost to time. Yet, the very same pattern emerges in ancient Chinese art, hidden within the ornaments of the Forbidden City. This was not a coincidence. To these cultures, the flower of life was a visual representation of the moment of creation, a map showing how all life springs from a single, sacred source. Then there is the golden ratio, a number known as phi, approximately 1.618. It is a proportion so aesthetically pleasing and so efficient that it seems to be nature's favorite formula. You can see it in the elegant spiral of a nautilus shell, where each new chamber grows in perfect proportion to the last. You can find it in the arrangement of seeds in a sunflower's head, a design that maximizes packing and growth. And astonishingly, the ancient Greeks engineered this same ratio into the very facade of the Parthenon, believing its proportions would invoke a sense of ideal beauty and harmony in all who saw it. From a temple in Athens to a flower in a field, the same mathematical rule applies. This reveals a stunning possibility. These ancient cultures were not just decorating their world, they were speaking the universe's native tongue, using geometry to align their creations with the fundamental order of existence. And one symbol, more than any other, came to represent this living, breathing connection between the earth and the cosmos, the mortal and the divine. It is the world tree. This great tree stands at the absolute center of the world. Its roots plunge deep into the subterranean realms of the ancestors and the dead, while its highest branches cradle the stars and the homes of the gods. This is the fourth messenger, the world tree, known across traditions as the Axis Mundi, the unshakable pillar that connects all layers of existence. In the cold north, the Vikings spoke of Yggdrasil, an immense and sacred ash tree. Its roots drank from 3 separate wells of fate and wisdom, and its trunk supported the 9 worlds of their cosmology. A serpent constantly gnawed at its roots, and a great eagle perched in its highest boughs, a vivid illustration of a cosmos in a state of dynamic, eternal tension. Far to the east, in Hindu scripture, the Ashvatha tree is described with its roots in heaven and its branches growing downward to envelop the earth. It is a stunning inversion of the same core idea, a symbol of the divine source from which all manifested reality flows. This was not just a myth, it was a blueprint for architecture. The mysterious 12,000-year-old stone pillars of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, the world's oldest known temple, are often seen as stylized trees, monumental representations of this cosmic axis. Thousands of years later, the Maya and the Aztecs built their towering stepped pyramids as symbolic world mountains, artificial trees of stone reaching directly for the sky, creating a stairway for priests to commune with the celestial realms. The world tree is more than a map of the cosmos. It is a map of our own spiritual potential. It charts a path for the human soul to ascend from the earthly realm through the mysteries of the middle world and toward enlightenment. The sheer persistence of this symbol, from the frigid north to the tropical jungles, reveals a universal human yearning. We have always sought to understand our place in the grand scheme of things, to find the central pole around which the entire universe turns. And just as this vertical axis gives structure to the cosmos, another ancient symbol provides the essential balance that makes that structure possible. The serpent slithers through the mythology of every culture, a creature of impossible duality. It can represent the venom that brings death, yet it also embodies the very essence of healing and rebirth. This fifth messenger holds a profound contradiction within its coiled form. In the deserts of ancient Egypt, the urious cobra, poised to strike on the pharaoh's brow, was not a symbol of evil but of ultimate protection and royal power. It was the fiery eye of the sun god Ra, a guardian of cosmic order. Half a world away across the Atlantic, the great feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl was revered by the Aztecs and Maya as a bringer of civilization, a deity of wind, wisdom, and the morning star. He gifted humanity with knowledge, representing the vital breath of life itself. Yet in the Judeo-Christian tradition, this same creature became the tempter in the Garden of Eden, a figure associated with deception and the fall from grace. So how can one symbol carry such wildly different meanings? The key lies in its most fundamental, observable act, the shedding of its skin. To ancient eyes, this was a miracle. The serpent appeared to die and be born again, leaving its old self behind in a perfect, translucent shell. It became a living, breathing metaphor for immortality, for the soul's ability to renew itself. This powerful image of regeneration is why the caduceus, the staff with two serpents entwined around it, has endured for millennia as a symbol of medicine and healing, a direct link to this ancient understanding. The serpent's duality reflects a deep human wisdom, an acknowledgement that creation and destruction, poison and antidote, are two sides of the same coin, locked in an eternal and necessary dance. This complex symbol did not spread through a single migration or trade route, but emerged again and again from a shared human observation of nature and a shared psychological need to understand the balance of opposites. This same intricate dance of opposing forces, of a single path leading to a hidden center, is mirrored in the structure of the labyrinth. A labyrinth offers a single, winding path to the center, a journey without the dead ends and confusion of a maze. This sixth messenger is a guided pilgrimage carved in stone or traced on the ground, a profound map for an inward quest. On ancient Cretan coins, the classic seven-circuit labyrinth was linked to the myth of the Minotaur, a beast waiting at the heart of a complex. But the labyrinth was never about the monster. It was about the hero's transformative journey through the darkness to emerge reborn. Centuries later, medieval builders laid a massive labyrinth into the floor of Chartres Cathedral. For pious pilgrims who could not travel to Jerusalem, walking this path on their knees was a substitute for the holy voyage, a physical prayer representing the long and difficult road to salvation. The same design appears in the rock art of the Hopi people, where it is known as the Mother Earth symbol and represents the path of emergence from the underworld into this world. In India, intricate labyrinths called kolam are drawn at thresholds using rice flour, serving as both a spiritual diagram and a welcome. To walk the labyrinth is to practice a moving meditation. Each turn represents a choice, a challenge, or a surrender. You move forward with the seeming certainty of progress, only to be turned back toward the outer edge, teaching patience and the humility that the path to understanding is rarely straight. The ultimate goal is to reach the center, that still point of the self where one can connect with the divine or a deeper truth, but the journey does not end there. You must then turn around and walk back out, carrying that newfound clarity into the world. The labyrinth teaches a beautiful paradox that the winding, sometimes frustrating path itself is the destination, and that every twist is necessary. This profound symbol of the inner journey stands in quiet contrast to those that guide our gaze upward, to the celestial bodies that have forever ruled our sense of time and destiny from the heavens above. High above the labyrinth's winding path, the sun and moon perform their eternal dance. These celestial bodies are the seventh messenger, a pair of symbols so fundamental they shaped the very fabric of ancient time and belief. In the scorching desert of ancient Egypt, the pharaoh Akhenaten championed the worship of the sun disk, the Aten, depicting it as a radiant circle with life-giving hands extending its rays to the royal family. This was not just a star, but the singular source of all life, a supreme deity of light and truth. Thousands of miles to the north, in the bogs of Trondheim, Denmark, a small, intricate artifact from the Bronze Age tells a similar story. The Trondheim Sun Chariot is a graceful model of a horse pulling a gleaming golden disc, a tangible representation of the sun's daily journey across the sky. From the Nile to the Nordic bogs, the sun was universally seen as a symbol of ultimate power, consciousness, and masculine energy, but it never danced alone. Its eternal partner, the moon, governed a different kind of magic. She ruled the hidden rhythms, the ebb and flow of the tides, the cycles of fertility, and the deep, intuitive waters of the feminine principle. The elegant crescent moon adorns the minarets of Islamic mosques, reaching for the heavens, while that same symbol crowned the head of the Mesopotamian moon god Sin, a deity of wisdom and oracles. This obsession with tracking these celestial cycles was a global endeavor. The Maya developed astonishingly precise lunar calendars, carving their complex calculations into stone to predict eclipses and sacred dates. On the windswept Isle of Lewis in Scotland, the standing stones of Callanish are arranged in a cruciform pattern that aligns with the moon's complex 19-year cycle, capturing its most extreme northern rising point. Why did cultures with no conceivable contact pour so much effort into watching the sky? These symbols were not just pretty decorations. They were humanity's anchor in the cosmos, a way to impose order on the chaos of existence and feel a divine presence in the vast starry night. The sheer precision of their observations hints at a lost science, a deep understanding of astronomy that we are only now beginning to appreciate, and in the art they left behind, this profound celestial reverence is often captured in a single, powerful, and enduring gesture. A hand raised in blessing or peace is a silent language understood across millennia. This is the eighth messenger, a gesture of benediction and power that appears with stunning consistency. In ancient Buddhist art, the Abhaya Mudra is depicted with the right hand raised, palm outward, a direct and fearless promise of safety and protection from all fear. Centuries later, in the golden glow of Byzantine mosaics, Christ is shown with that same raised hand, fingers often arranged in a specific blessing, conveying divine authority and grace to the faithful. This symbol is even more primal, reaching back to the very dawn of human expression. In the deep, dark caves of Paleolithic Europe and elsewhere, we find the haunting stencils of human hands created by blowing pigment over a hand pressed against the rock wall. It is a signature, a presence, a declaration of "I was here," but it may also have been a plea or an offering to the powers of the unseen world. The meaning of this gesture was deeply embedded in the social fabric of ancient civilizations. In the Roman Forum, a single raised hand from the emperor during a gladiatorial contest could grant mercy and spare a life, a powerful display of clemency that echoed divine prerogative. In the intricate and spiritual art of Hinduism and Buddhism, this concept is refined into an entire lexicon of sacred hand positions known as mudras. Each precise configuration of the fingers is believed to channel specific spiritual energies, from teaching and reasoning to the dispelling of illusion, turning the human body into a conduit for cosmic forces. Why does this single, simple act speak so universally? The raised, open hand is a primal signal of non-aggression. It shows you are unarmed, you come in peace, you offer a blessing rather than a blow. It creates an immediate connection, a bridge of trust between individuals, and on a grander scale, it becomes a symbol of the connection between the human and the divine, a channel through which power, peace, and grace can flow into the world. This profound focus on the human form as a vessel for ultimate meaning naturally leads us to a deeper mystery, the symbolism of the body itself. Our own bodies are the most intimate and powerful symbols we possess. This ninth messenger is the human form itself, seen across traditions not just as flesh and bone, but as a perfect miniature of the cosmos, a living microcosm. The Renaissance genius Leonardo da Vinci gave this idea its most famous visual form with his Vitruvian Man, a drawing of a man perfectly inscribed within both a circle and a square. This was not a new invention, but an echo of a belief held by the ancient Romans and Greeks that the proportions of the human body reflected the perfect mathematical harmony of the universe itself. Long before Leonardo, this concept was deeply embedded in spiritual systems. In Hinduism, the subtle body is mapped by 7 energy centers, or chakras, each one corresponding to a different state of consciousness, from the earthy, physical root to the cosmic, enlightened crown. This is a spiritual anatomy, a direct assertion that the entire universe, from matter to pure spirit, exists within us. This profound anthropomorphic view shaped how ancient cultures depicted the divine. The gods of Egypt were almost always shown with human bodies, but their animal heads attributed cosmic powers to them, like the falcon head of the sky god Horus or the jackal head of Anubis, guardian of the dead. Similarly, the Mayan maize god was depicted as a beautiful, idealized human, his life, death, and rebirth mirroring the cycle of the sacred corn that sustained their civilization. This entire worldview is perfectly captured in the ancient Hermetic maxim, "As above, so below." It suggests that the patterns governing the stars are the same patterns governing our own bodies and souls. This principle was physically built into the world. Many ancient temples, from the Parthenon in Greece to some Hindu shrines, were constructed using proportions based on the human form, creating sacred spaces that were literally a reflection of the divine human. And in the mystical tradition of alchemy, the ultimate goal was not just to turn lead into gold, but to perfect the base human soul into its golden, enlightened state, a spiritual transformation mirrored in the physical work. The body, therefore, is a text. It is a map to be read, containing the same spiritual truths and cosmic laws that are written in the stars and carved into ancient stones. And if our own form is a mirror of the universe, then it is no surprise we see the same sacred patterns reflected in the animals that share our world. A jackal does not merely guard the desert in Egyptian art. It becomes Anubis, the divine psychopomp who guides the soul through the terrifying transition of death. This is the 10th messenger, the animal kingdom as a symbolic mirror. Across every ancient culture, animals were rarely depicted as simple fauna. They were living avatars, carriers of immense virtues and potent omens from the spirit world. In China, the dragon was never a monster of destruction, but a benevolent embodiment of imperial authority, of rainfall, and of the vital cosmic energy known as Kai. Its serpentine form coiled through the heavens, a symbol of ultimate power and good fortune. Meanwhile, from the standards of imperial Rome to the headdresses of Native American chiefs, the eagle has consistently represented piercing vision, sovereign freedom, and a direct connection to the divine, its flight a bridge between the earth and the realm of the gods. What do these choices reveal? They reflect a universal human tendency to see the natural world as a vast dictionary for explaining the spiritual one. The raw courage of a lion, for instance, made it a near-universal emblem of royalty and solar power. It adorned the throne of the pharaohs in Egypt, guarded the gates of palaces in Mesopotamia, and was woven into royal insignia across Europe and Asia. This was not a case of one culture copying another, but of separate peoples arriving at the same symbolic conclusion by observing the same raw, majestic power in nature. This symbolic menagerie gave our ancestors a rich and intuitive vocabulary. The cunning of the fox, the patience of the ox, the transformative mystery of the butterfly. Each creature offered a way to express complex ideas about human character, cosmic forces, and the hierarchy of life itself. The animal world became a mirror in which humanity saw its own virtues, vices, and spiritual aspirations reflected back. And just as this living symbolism gave form to the forces of nature, a silent, mathematical language was being used to describe the very architecture of creation itself. A mandala is a universe you can hold in the palm of your hand. This 11th messenger is more than a beautiful pattern. It is a cosmic diagram designed to guide the soul. In the serene monasteries of Tibet, monks dedicate days or even weeks to the painstaking creation of a sand mandala. They place each grain of colored sand with absolute precision, building a breathtakingly intricate map of the Buddhist cosmos, complete with palaces, deities, and symbolic gates. Yet, at the very moment of its completion, this masterpiece is deliberately and ceremonially swept away, its sands poured into a flowing river. This profound act is a lesson in non-attachment, a vivid demonstration that all of material existence, no matter how beautiful, is ultimately transient. The same sacred geometry echoes in the soaring architecture of the West. The magnificent rose windows of Gothic cathedrals like Notre Dame are essentially Christian mandalas. Their radiating symmetry of stained glass, often depicting Christ at the center surrounded by saints and biblical stories, transforms sunlight into a kaleidoscope of divine narrative, pulling the worshipper's gaze and spirit toward heaven. This urge to map the cosmos in a circle is a universal human impulse. The Aztec sun stone, a colossal carved disc often mistaken for a calendar, is a layered mandala of their worldview, charting the creation of the world and the ages of the sun. Even the endlessly interwoven paths of Celtic knots with no beginning and no end function as a kind of mandala, representing the interconnectedness of all life and the eternal cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. To meditate upon a mandala is to embark on an inward pilgrimage. Your eyes follow the patterns from the outer edge toward the unmoving, silent center, a journey from the chaos of the everyday world to the stillness of your own true self. It is a tool for reorganizing inner turmoil into perfect harmony, aligning the individual's consciousness with the fundamental order of the universe. And just as these sacred diagrams were believed to bring inner peace, other symbols were crafted with a more urgent purpose, to create a shield against the chaos of the unseen world. An eye stares out from the amulet around a child's neck in Greece and from a temple wall in ancient Egypt. This 12th messenger, the all-seeing eye, transcends cultures as a profound symbol of perception, protection, and a universe that is watching. In Egypt, the Eye of Horus was far more than a drawing. It was a sacred tool for well-being. Each part of the stylized falcon eye corresponded to a different fraction and a different human sense, creating a mathematical and spiritual recipe for a whole, healthy being. Amulets of the Wadjet eye were placed on mummies to protect the soul in the afterlife and on the living to ensure their health. It was the benevolent, watchful gaze of a god, a promise that you were seen and guarded. This deep-seated need for protection from unseen malevolence gave rise to one of the world's most persistent symbols, the evil eye. From the blue Nazar beads hanging in shops in Turkey to similar charms in Latin America and the Middle East, the staring blue eye is not a symbol of evil, but a defense against it. It operates on a universal folk belief that a gaze filled with envy or hatred can project tangible misfortune, a curse from a mere look. The charm, then, is a mirror, reflecting that toxic energy back upon itself, a preemptive strike performed with symbolic art. The ancient Greeks took this idea of terrifying protection to a dramatic extreme with the Gorgonean, the horrifying head of the snake-haired Medusa. This was not a symbol to be contemplated for its beauty, but a weapon. Stamped on shields, forged onto armor, and carved over city gates, the Gorgonean was a form of spiritual warfare. Its function was apotropaic, meaning it was designed to turn away harm, to literally petrify evil with its own terrifying gaze. What does this collective obsession with protective symbols tell us? It reveals a fundamental layer of the human experience, the vulnerability we feel in a world of visible and invisible forces. We have always sought ways to feel safe, to believe that a symbol can create a shield, that art can wield spiritual power. This desire to mark a space as sacred and protected leads us directly to the most personal of frontiers, the threshold of the home. A doorway is far more than an opening in a wall. It is a powerful boundary between worlds, and the 13th silent messenger is the guardian of that sacred line. These symbols mark the liminal space, a threshold where one state of being is left behind and another is entered, a place of immense power and profound vulnerability. In the great palaces of ancient Assyria, colossal stone figures known as lamashu stood watch at every major entrance. These were not mere decorations. With the powerful body of a bull, the majestic wings of an eagle, and the intelligent face of a human king, they were supernatural sentinels. They were designed so that from the front they appeared to be standing guard, and from the side they were striding forward, a brilliant piece of art ensuring they were perpetually in motion, eternally watching over the transition from the outside world into the royal domain. Their purpose was to terrify and turn away any malevolent spirits that might try to cross. This idea of the guarded gate is a global phenomenon. Fierce lion statues, often in pairs, flank the entrances to temples and tombs across China. Their stony gaze a silent challenge to any harmful force. They represent protection but also authority, marking the passage from the mundane to the holy. The very essence of this transitional magic was personified by the Roman god Janus. He was uniquely depicted with two faces, one looking forward into the future and the other gazing back into the past. He was the god of beginnings and endings, of gates, doorways, and passages. His dual visage perfectly captures the nature of a threshold, a place where you are simultaneously in two states, no longer what you were but not yet what you will become. This is why transitions like births, marriages, and initiations are surrounded by ritual. These rites of passage are a form of spiritual protection for the soul as it navigates these dangerous, transformative in-between spaces. The Threshold Guardian teaches us that change itself is a sacred process. Crossing from one reality to another, whether through a physical door or a life event, requires respect and conscious intention. It is a moment where the veil between worlds is thin and profound transformation becomes possible. And once we step across that guarded boundary, we enter the realm of the most essential and life-giving symbols of all. A river does not simply flow, it gives life. Water is the 14th silent messenger, a symbol as deep and universal as the oceans themselves. It represents the source of all life, the power of purification, and the vast, hidden depths of our own subconscious mind. In India, the Ganges River is not just a body of water, it is a goddess, a literal flowing prayer believed to wash away the sins of a lifetime and carry the souls of the departed to paradise. In ancient Egypt, the entire rhythm of civilization was dictated by the annual flooding of the Nile. Its predictable, life-giving inundation was seen as a divine act, turning the desert into a fertile black land, the very foundation of their empire. This sacred connection to water is not a matter of geography, but of biology. Our own bodies are mostly water, and we instinctively understand its power to quench, to cleanse, to heal. But this powerful, formless force requires a container to give it purpose. This is where the symbolic vessel enters the story. Across mythologies, a sacred cup or bowl holds the essence of spiritual truth. In the Arthurian legends of medieval Europe, the Holy Grail was the ultimate quest, a chalice that offered not just eternal life but direct communion with the divine. In Persian epic poetry, the cup of Jamshid was a magical scrying vessel, allowing the mythical king to see all the 7 layers of the cosmos. And in countless African rituals, simple, beautifully crafted water pots are used to carry offerings and blessings, connecting the community to the ancestors. What do all these vessels share? They are symbolic wombs. They represent the feminine principle of containment, the sacred space where life, wisdom, and profound emotion are held and nurtured. The human heart itself is such a vessel, a container for our deepest feelings. This is why the simple, universal act of pouring water is one of humanity's most common rituals. From a Catholic priest blessing a congregation with holy water to a Shinto priest in Japan offering a ladle of pure water at a shrine, the act is the same. It is a ritual of cleansing, of blessing, of inviting the sacred, fluid energy of life to flow into a person or a space, washing away spiritual impurity. Water reminds us that we are fluid beings in a fluid universe, connected to the fundamental processes of birth, emotion, and constant change. This ever-moving, ever-adapting nature of water stands in beautiful contrast to the next messenger, a symbol of unshakable permanence and silent strength that has watched over humanity since the beginning. A mountain peak pierces the clouds, a silent promise of a world beyond our own. This is the 15th messenger, the sacred mountain, an abode of the gods where the solid earth strains to touch the heavens. For the ancient Greeks, the divine pantheon did not reside in some abstract, distant realm, but lived and quarreled and held court atop the very real, mist-shrouded peak of Mount Olympus. In the stark desert of the Middle East, it was upon the rocky summit of Mount Sinai that Moses was said to have received the law directly from God, a place where the veil between the human and the divine was torn away. And in the high, thin air of the Himalayas, Mount Kailash is revered by Hindus, Buddhists, Jains, and Bonpos as the very axis of the universe, a natural mandala so sacred that climbing it is considered a sacrilege. One must circle it on foot, a pilgrimage that mirrors the orbit of the stars. But what do you do if you live on a flat, featureless plain with no mountain in sight? You build one, the massive step pyramids of the Maya rising from the jungle canopy, and the towering ziggurats of Mesopotamia, constructed from sun-baked mud bricks, were precisely that, artificial mountains. They were not tombs for dead kings, but living, breathing conduits. Their steep stairways were a spiritual escalator, a pathway for priests and rulers to ascend, to draw closer to the celestial realms and bring divine wisdom back down to the people. The mountain, whether natural or carved by human hands, is a symbol of the ultimate spiritual quest. The climb itself is a metaphor for the seeker's journey, an arduous, often lonely path of perseverance and discipline. Each step upward requires leaving something of your old self behind. The thin air challenges the body, the vast silence confronts the mind, but the reward for this struggle is a perspective that transcends the mundane world. From the summit, the petty conflicts and divisions of the world below fade into insignificance, replaced by a breathtaking vision of wholeness and connection. You see the curvature of the earth, the way all things are part of a single, interconnected landscape. This vertical aspiration, this longing to rise above our earthly limitations, is one of the most consistent themes in human spirituality. It is a testament to our innate belief that we are meant for something more, that our true home lies not in the valleys of comfort, but somewhere closer to the stars. And from this lofty vantage point, with a mind cleared by the ascent, we can begin to see the hidden patterns that guide our steps on the earth below, the subtle codes that govern everything from the growth of a leaf to the orbit of a planet. A single, unbroken line twists and turns back upon itself in an endless dance. This is the 16th messenger, the Meander, a pattern of profound simplicity that holds the secret of eternity. You know it as the Greek key, that familiar geometric border winding around ancient vases and classical architecture, but its meaning runs far deeper than mere decoration. It is a river captured in stone and clay. The pattern takes its name from the actual Meander River in Turkey, a waterway so famously winding that it gave us the very word for a circuitous journey. To trace the Meander with your eye is to follow a path with no true start and no final destination, a perfect symbol for the eternal flow of life, energy, and time. In the Bronze Age citadel of Mycenae, this powerful motif was carved into the Great Lion Gate, guarding the entrance with a stone reminder of the unending cycle of power and protection. Yet this same idea flourished on the other side of the world. In Maori art, the koru pattern is a spiral unfolding from a tightly wound center, a continuous loop that represents an unfurling fern frond. It is a symbol of new life, perpetual movement, and the interconnectedness of all things, sharing the Meander's core philosophy of a journey without end. How can a simple line speak so universally? The Meander is a labyrinth in its purest, most abstract form. It is the path of a life with all its unexpected twists and turns, its seeming advances and sudden reversals. You move forward with purpose, only to find the path doubling back, teaching you that progress is not always a straight line. It is the river of fate forever flowing, and the infinite bond of family and community, each line inextricably linked to the next. This pattern demonstrates a stunning human achievement, the ability to take a complex philosophical concept like eternity, something the mind can barely grasp, and render it into a simple, tangible design you can run your fingers over. It is a silent, meditative chant on the nature of reality itself, suggesting that our existence is not a series of disconnected events, but a single, continuous, and beautifully intricate movement. And just as this single line weaves the story of infinity, other symbols were crafted to capture the very essence of duality, the fundamental dance of opposing forces that gives our universe its rhythm and balance. Numbers were never just for counting. To our ancestors, they were living archetypes, each with its own unique personality and cosmic vibration. The 17th silent messenger is the language of numerology, a system where mathematics and mysticism merge into a single, sacred code. Consider the number 3. It is the number of harmony and divine completeness, the resolution of a beginning, a middle, and an end. In Christianity, it is the Holy Trinity of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. In many pagan traditions, it is the triple goddess, manifesting as the maiden, the mother, and the crone. In the philosophy of Hinduism, the three gunas represent the fundamental qualities that constitute all of nature. Then there is the number 7, a number of sacred perfection that echoes across the globe. In Judaism, God rested on the 7th day, completing the act of creation. In Islam, there are 7 heavens. There are 7 classical planets, 7 deadly sins, and 7 virtues. This number seems to be woven into the very fabric of reality, governing cycles and signaling a state of spiritual wholeness. The number 12 provides a framework for order itself. It rules our measurement of time with 12 months in a year and twice 12 hours in a day. It structured the pantheon of the Greeks with 12 Olympian gods and the foundation of the early church with 12 apostles. The ancient Greek philosopher Pythagoras took this concept to its ultimate conclusion. He taught that the entire universe was literally built from numbers, that the relationships between them were the hidden architecture of everything from music to the motion of the stars. This very same idea resonates through the mystical Jewish tradition of Kabbalah and the ancient Vedic texts of India. Numbers were not invented, they were discovered, and in their perfect, unchanging relationships, our ancestors heard the voice of the cosmos speaking a logical, beautiful language. This brings us back to our central mystery, the number 33. Could its power be a compounded resonance of these foundational numbers, a triple 11 or a magnification of 3? Its persistent appearance as the count of our silent messengers suggests it holds a unique key, a numerical signature for a complete system of wisdom. 2 lines intersect, creating a crossroads at the very center of the world. This is the 18th messenger, the cross, a symbol so ancient and universal its roots dig deep into a time long before it ever adorned a church. In the dry air of ancient Egypt, the Ankh, a cross crowned with a loop, was clutched in the hands of gods and pharaohs. It was not a symbol of death, but the very key to eternal life, representing the sacred breath and the life-giving waters of the Nile. Far to the east, the swastika, a hooked cross spinning in a graceful wheel, was for thousands of years a sacred emblem in Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. It represented the benevolent movement of the sun across the sky, good fortune, and the unstoppable wheel of Dharma, the cosmic law. And in the misty highlands of the Celtic world, the cross was never without its circle, the stone-high crosses uniting the 4 directions with the eternal, unbroken ring of the heavens. How can one form carry such a weight of varied meaning? Its power lies in its perfect, simple geometry. 2 lines meeting create a center, a point of transformation where the vertical axis of the spirit intersects with the horizontal plane of the earth. This is the meeting of the divine and the mortal, the very place where heaven touches the ground. It maps the 4 cardinal directions, anchoring us in the world, and represents the 4 classical elements of earth, air, fire, and water, the building blocks of existence. The cross is the ultimate symbol of reconciliation, the point where opposing dualities are resolved into a new, stable whole. It is a place of sacrifice where one thing must end for another to begin, and a place of ultimate potential where a single choice can change a life's entire direction. This profound recognition of the crossroads, of the moment of intersection, appears everywhere humanity has sought to understand its place in the cosmos. The cross is a map, and every map has its focal point, its still and silent heart where all the lines converge. A single stone can hold the entire world in balance. This 19th messenger is the sacred center, the omphalos, a point from which all of creation is believed to unfold. For the ancient Greeks, this was not a metaphor, but a physical reality. At the sanctuary of Delphi, a specific stone, anointed with oil and wrapped in wool, was revered as the very navel of the world. According to myth, Zeus released two eagles from opposite ends of the earth, and they met at this very spot, marking it as the absolute center. It was here that the Pythia, the oracle of Delphi, would sit upon a tripod, breathing in vapors rising from a chasm in the earth to deliver the prophecies of Apollo. The center was not just a location, it was a direct hotline to the divine. This concept of an axis mundi is mirrored in the grand cosmology of Hinduism, where the majestic Mount Meru rises as the central pillar of the entire universe, a cosmic mountain around which all the planets and stars revolve. In Islam, the Kaaba in Mecca, with its revered black stone embedded in one corner, serves a similar centering purpose for the entire faith. It is the focal point toward which millions of Muslims pray daily, a physical anchor that unites a global community in a single spiritual orientation. Why did so many cultures feel the need to designate a center of the world? In a vast and often terrifying cosmos, the sacred center provides the ultimate orientation. It is the fixed point in the turning stars, the still eye in the hurricane of existence. From this one stable point, the four cardinal directions can be defined, order can be imposed upon chaos, and meaning can radiate outward to structure the entire known world. This is not merely a geographical impulse, but a profound psychological one. We each carry an inner omphalos, a core of consciousness that remains constant and unwavering amidst the constant flux of our lives. The universal spiritual goal of finding your center is the personal version of this ancient practice, a quest to locate that still, silent point within yourself from which your own world gains its meaning and stability. And once this center is established, it naturally gives rise to the next layer of sacred order, the boundary that defines and protects it. Four solid sides enclose a space of perfect earthly order. This is the 20th messenger, the square, a symbol that grounds the infinite potential of the circle into the stable, manifest world. If the circle represents the divine spirit and the eternal cosmos, the square is its earthly counterpart, a blueprint for the material realm and the foundation of human civilization. Its power derives from one of humanity's most fundamental observations, the four cardinal directions. From the vast plains of North America, the Native American medicine wheel maps these four directions onto the circle of life, assigning each one a season, an animal, and a stage of human development, creating a complete and harmonious model for existence. In ancient China, this concept was expressed through the four celestial animals, the azure dragon of the east, the vermilion bird of the south, the white tiger of the west, and the black turtle of the north, guardians who brought cosmic order to the landscape and even influenced the layout of cities. This was not a vague spiritual idea, it was a practical tool for imposing structure. The Roman Empire, famed for its engineering and military precision, laid out its cities and military camps, or castra, using a strict grid pattern centered on two main roads that crossed at right angles, the Cardo running north-south and the Decumanus running east-west. This created a symbolic microcosm of the ordered world, a square of civilization carved out of the chaos of the wilderness. Look at any traditional mandala, and you will see this principle in action. The intricate circular cosmos is almost always enclosed within a square palace with four ornate gates. This is not a cage, but a sacred integration, a visual prayer showing how spirit, represented by the circle, descends into and gives life to matter, represented by the square. The four sides of this foundational shape provide a framework for understanding everything. They can represent the four classical elements of earth, air, fire, and water, the four seasons of the year, or the four stages of a human life: childhood, youth, adulthood, and old age. The square creates a sacred and ordered space where human activity can unfold with meaning and purpose. It is the temple floor, the city wall, the plowed field, the stable ground upon which we build our lives. Yet this very stability, this beautiful order, is precisely what makes the next messenger so powerful and so necessary, a symbol that shatters the square to reveal the hidden potential within. Lead can become gold. This astonishing promise lies at the heart of the 21st messenger, the alchemical symbols of transformation. Alchemy was far more than primitive chemistry. It was a profound spiritual philosophy that used the language of the laboratory to describe the soul's journey toward enlightenment. At its core was the magnificent Ouroboros, the serpent eating its own tail, a symbol we have already met, but here it represents the endless cycle of death and rebirth necessary for inner purification. Then there is the phoenix, the mythical bird that immolates itself in a pyre of its own making, only to rise again from the ashes, more radiant than before. This was not a story about a bird, but a powerful metaphor for the ego's destruction and the subsequent birth of the higher self. The entire process of turning base lead into perfect gold was an allegory for transforming the raw, imperfect human soul into its refined, illuminated state. This symbolic language was not confined to medieval Europe. Intricate alchemical symbols for planets and elements appear with striking similarity in the mystical traditions of India, within the complex texts of Rasayana, and in the ancient Chinese quest for immortality and the philosopher's stone. These distant cultures, with no apparent contact, were all engaged in the same sacred quest, using the manipulation of matter as a mirror for the manipulation of the spirit. The imagery grew even more complex with allegories like the green lion devouring the sun, a dramatic representation of the initial, corrosive stage of inner work where the psyche must confront and dissolve its own impurities. Or consider the chemical wedding, a beautiful allegory of the sacred marriage between the masculine and feminine principles within a single consciousness, resulting in a state of spiritual wholeness. But why cloak such profound truths in such obscure and bizarre imagery? These symbols provided a coded language, a safe lexicon for initiates to discuss the dangerous mysteries of life, death, and rebirth without fear of persecution from religious or political authorities. This secret language of transformation created a hidden bridge, connecting the solitary work of the alchemist to the collective rituals of the world's most enigmatic secret societies. A hidden language of symbols did not vanish with the ancient world. It found new guardians in the whispered rituals of secret societies. From the Freemasons to the Rosicrucians, these esoteric orders became the 20th second messenger, dedicated curators of a wisdom tradition they believed stretched back to the builders of Solomon's temple. Their meeting halls were not just rooms but symbolic universes, the compass and the square, one tracing the circle of the heavens and the other measuring the square of the earth, were not tools of architecture but emblems of a life lived in balance between the spiritual and the material. The twin pillars of Bose and Jachin, representing stability and establishment, flanked every initiate's path, a constant architectural reminder of the dualities that must be reconciled within the self. And the all-seeing eye, often depicted within a triangle and radiating light, was not a symbol of surveillance, but of the omnipresent divine consciousness, a reminder that every thought and action unfolds beneath a celestial witness. These groups were not hoarding power but preserving a method. Their elaborate initiation rituals were psychological journeys, using potent symbols to impart moral and philosophical lessons about integrity, self-knowledge, and one's duty to the cosmos. The candidate was led through a drama of death and rebirth, a clear echo of the alchemical transformation, emerging not with a secret password, but with a new understanding of their own potential. This profound belief that human society should be a reflection of cosmic order is literally set in stone. Look at the street plan of Washington, D.C. Its grand avenues form Masonic symbols like the pentagram and the compass, while the layout of the Capitol building itself incorporates sacred geometry. This was not a conspiracy, but a declaration. The founders, many of whom were Freemasons, were attempting to build a new nation on what they saw as the eternal and universal principles of reason, virtue, and divine harmony. The enduring allure of these societies reveals a deep and persistent human longing. We are drawn to the idea of hidden knowledge, of a direct line to an ancient truth that lies just beneath the surface of everyday life. The initiatory experience, the feeling of being tested and welcomed into a circle of understanding, speaks to a fundamental need for personal transformation and belonging to something greater than oneself. The symbols they so carefully preserved seem to point back, again and again, to a single primordial source of wisdom, a lost word from the dawn of civilization that every generation strives to recover. A single, original truth echoes beneath the cacophony of the world's faiths. This is the 23rd messenger, the concept of a primordial tradition, a profound idea suggesting that all our religions and myths are merely scattered fragments of one ancient, universal revelation. Esoteric thinkers like the French philosopher René Guénon dedicated their lives to this theory. They proposed that at the very dawn of human consciousness, a fundamental wisdom was imparted to humanity, a complete understanding of the divine, the cosmos, and the human soul. This pristine knowledge was not written in a language that could be forgotten or mistranslated, but was encoded into the very symbols we have been exploring. The spiral, the world tree, the cross, the serpent, these were not independent inventions, but the enduring vocabulary of that first and final teaching. As centuries passed and humanity spread across the globe, this unified tradition inevitably fragmented. Different cultures, with their unique environments and histories, developed their own distinct rituals, gods, and stories, yet they all retained pieces of the original symbolic code. This is why a symbol of rebirth like the Ouroboros appears in both Egyptian and Greek texts, and why the concept of a world axis is found in Norse mythology and in the architecture of Mayan temples. The similarities are not proof of cultural theft, but of a common inheritance. Whether you interpret this primordial tradition as literal, historical fact, or as a powerful metaphor for the unity of human spiritual experience, its explanatory power is immense. It resolves the mystery of these parallel discoveries, suggesting that our deepest intuition about reality, our most profound questions about life and death, all spring from a single, shared source. This search for a lost origin, for that golden age of unified understanding, inevitably draws our attention to the physical objects that have endured the millennia, the most enigmatic artifacts that seem to hold these secrets frozen in time. A flawless crystal skull seems to stare into eternity with empty eyes. This is the 24th messenger, an artifact wrapped in equal parts mystery and controversy, most famously the Mitchell-Hedges skull. Discovered in the 1920s and touted as an ancient Mesoamerican relic, these objects are staggering feats of craftsmanship, carved from a single block of quartz with a jawbone that moves with perfect precision. For decades, they were presented as impossible enigmas, artifacts from a lost civilization possessing technology we can scarcely comprehend. They were said to hum with a strange energy, to show visions of the past and future, to be repositories of ancient Atlantean knowledge. Scientific analysis, however, has cast a long shadow over these romantic tales. Microscopic examination reveals telltale marks of modern rotary tools, not the hand-carved techniques of pre-Columbian artisans. The overwhelming consensus now suggests that the most famous crystal skulls are elaborate hoaxes, likely crafted in 19th century Europe, yet their enduring power has little to do with their actual origin. The legend of the crystal skull taps directly into the deepest wells of our symbolic language. Crystal itself has always represented pure clarity, frozen light, and a conduit for higher wisdom, a window into other realms of consciousness. The human skull, across countless cultures, is the ultimate memento mori, a stark reminder of our own mortality and the fragility of the physical form. But fuse these two symbols together and something extraordinary happens. A crystal skull transforms the grim reminder of death into a promise of transcendent consciousness. It represents the mind liberated from its bony prison, the soul shining through after the body has returned to dust. It is not a symbol of an ending, but of a beginning, a state of pure awareness that exists beyond time and decay. The passionate debate surrounding these objects, the fervent hope that they might be real, reveals more about us than it does about the skulls themselves. We are the ones who project these ancient meanings onto them. Their story, a compelling blend of fact and fiction, demonstrates how potent symbols can be, so powerful that they can inspire entire modern myths to crystallize around them. They exist in a hazy borderland where history and legend become indistinguishable, proving that an object's true power often lies not in its provenance, but in the timeless human longings it reflects. A lion rampant on a shield was more than a decoration. It was a legal document written in color and form. This 25th messenger is the symbolic code of heraldry and seals, a sophisticated visual language that governed identity, lineage, and power for centuries. Across medieval Europe, a coat of arms functioned like a modern passport and corporate logo combined. Its rules were precise and unyielding. A lion represented raw courage and royalty. An eagle soaring high symbolized imperial ambition and far-reaching vision. The delicate fleur-de-lis, famously adopted by the French monarchy, stood for purity, light, and the Holy Trinity. These symbols were not chosen at random. They were a carefully curated public statement, a declaration of who you were, where you came from, and what you claimed the right to rule. This language of power reached its most potent expression in the Byzantine double-headed eagle. With one head gazing east and the other west, this magnificent creature perfectly symbolized an empire that saw itself as the bridge between two worlds, holding dominion over both. But this impulse to codify identity was not confined to the West. In Japan, the intricate system of mon, or family crests, served a remarkably similar purpose. These elegant, stylized designs, often based on natural motifs like paulownia leaves, gentian flowers, or swirling water, were worn on clothing and displayed on buildings to signify aristocratic lineage and social status. What is truly remarkable is how this system transcended literacy. A knight in full plate armor was anonymous, a walking fortress, but the symbols on his shield and surcoat told his entire story to anyone who could read this universal language of imagery. A peasant who had never learned his letters could still understand the authority of a royal seal pressed into hot wax, its intricate design guaranteeing the authenticity of a decree. Heraldry represents the formalization of our deepest symbolic impulses. It takes the raw, universal archetypes, the lion of strength, the eagle of spirit, and channels them into a structured system for social and political order. It reveals a universal human need to belong to a tribe, to a family, to a nation, and to display that identity proudly to the world. This move from intuitive symbol to codified emblem is a crucial step in human communication, a bridge between the abstract art of the cave wall and the precise, standardized characters of written language. A single ox head drawn on a clay tablet in ancient Sumer held the seed of an entire language. This 26th messenger marks the profound transition from symbol to script, the moment our silent messengers began to find their voice. The earliest forms of writing were not abstract alphabets but direct pictures of the world. Egyptian hieroglyphs began as elegant pictographs, a wavy line for water, a simple house, a bird in flight. In Mesopotamia, scribes pressed a stylus into wet clay to create cuneiform, a script that started as straightforward representations of a star, a grain, or a head. These were not yet words as we know them, but standardized symbols, a direct continuation of the symbolic language we have been exploring. They were art that was meant to be read, and writing that was meant to be seen. The true revolution came with abstraction. Over centuries, that pictograph of an ox head slowly rotated and simplified, eventually becoming the letter in our own alphabet. The concrete image of an object evolved into a sign for a sound, a phonetic building block that could be combined to form any word imaginable. This was a cognitive leap of staggering proportions, allowing humanity to capture not just things, but the very flow of thought and speech. Yet some writing systems never fully abandoned their symbolic roots. The Chinese script remains largely logographic, where each character is a complex, self-contained universe of meaning. The character for forest is not a string of letters but two trees standing together. The character for peace combines the symbols for a roof and a woman, evoking a sense of tranquility and home. This system preserves a deep, intuitive connection between the image and the idea, a living bridge back to the world of pure symbol. The Rosetta Stone was the ultimate key to this forgotten door. For centuries, scholars saw Egyptian hieroglyphs as mere mystical decoration, sacred art with no linguistic content, but the stone, with its parallel texts in Greek, Demotic, and hieroglyphs, proved the truth. Those beautiful, intricate carvings of birds' eyes and serpents were not just symbols. They were a fully functional, sophisticated script capable of recording poetry, history, and law. Their art was their language, and their language was a direct descendant of the silent messengers. This entire journey, from the cave painting to the phonetic alphabet, is a microcosm of our own cognitive development. It shows how we learn to compress the vast, fluid world of experience into manageable, permanent signs. We learn to encapsulate a thought, to give it a body made of stone, clay, or ink, allowing it to travel across space and time. Yet, even after the advent of efficient writing, pure symbols never lost their power. The cross, the spiral, the mandala, these forms continue to communicate something that words could not fully capture, an immediate, intuitive truth that bypasses the logical mind and speaks directly to the soul. A mask does not hide you, it reveals a god. This 27th messenger is the enduring power of the mask, a transformative object that allows an ordinary person to step outside of themselves and become something far greater. In the vibrant ceremonies of West African tribes, an intricately carved wooden mask is not a piece of costume, it is a vessel. The moment a dancer puts it on, he is no longer a villager. He is the embodiment of a community ancestor or a powerful nature spirit, his movements and voice channeling a divine presence directly into the heart of the community. Half a world away, in the sun-drenched amphitheaters of ancient Greece, actors donned the familiar faces of comedy and tragedy. These masks were acoustic projectors, yes, but they were also profound psychological tools. They allowed a single performer to represent an entire archetype, to become every hero, every king, or every fool, making the personal universal and the universal deeply personal. This act of masking is central to shamanic traditions everywhere. A shaman wears a mask not for disguise, but as a key. It is a ritual technology for journeying into the spirit realm, a focal point that allows their consciousness to travel to the world of the ancestors to seek healing, wisdom, or prophecy. The mask, therefore, operates on a powerful duality. It conceals the individual, mundane identity in order to reveal a deeper, universal truth. It plays with the very nature of the self. In our modern psychological language, the mask is the persona, the social face we present to the world to function in society. But ancient rituals understood that behind that social mask lie countless other layers, the hidden aspects of our psyche, our fears, our potentials, and the archetypal forces that shape all human experience. The mask gives these hidden forces a face and a voice, allowing us to confront them, to dance with them, and to understand them. From the Japanese no theater to the sacred Kachina dances of the Hopi, the use of masks in ceremony points to a shared, intuitive understanding that identity is not a fixed point, but a fluid and multi-layered reality. We are not one self, but many. This ancient concept of a hidden identity, of a truth concealed behind a symbolic face, finds a direct echo in a more modern practice, the use of symbols to conceal and protect information in the art of cryptography. A message can be hidden in plain sight, written in a language only a chosen few can understand. This is the 28th messenger, the ancient art of cryptography and symbolic codes, where our silent messengers become guardians of secret knowledge. Long before complex computer algorithms, civilizations were using symbols to create inner circles of understanding. In ancient Sparta, military commanders used a device called a cytale for secure communication. This was a simple wooden staff around which a strip of leather was wrapped. A message was written lengthwise along the staff, and then the leather was unwound. To anyone who intercepted it, the strip displayed only a jumble of meaningless letters. But when wound around a staff of exactly the same diameter, the message magically reassembled itself into a clear and direct order. This was a physical cipher, a secret kept not by complex mathematics, but by a shared piece of wood. The same impulse for concealment existed within the sacred spaces of Egypt. While many hieroglyphs were meant for public monuments, the priests developed a cryptic version of their script, a symbolic code used for the most profound theological texts. This was not a different language, but a deliberately obscured one, where familiar signs were given hidden meanings or arranged in unusual ways to shield divine mysteries from those not prepared to receive them. This tradition of obscurity reached its peak in the alchemical laboratories of medieval Europe. Their texts were famously and intentionally incomprehensible to outsiders. Descriptions of chemical processes were cloaked in bizarre allegories of dragons, kings, and green lions. The goal was to protect the powerful spiritual truths of their art from the profane and the unprepared, ensuring that only those who had undergone the proper moral and intellectual training could access its transformative power. Then there is the ultimate enigma, the Voynich manuscript. This book, written in an unknown script and illustrated with pictures of plants that do not exist and celestial charts that defy identification, has resisted every attempt at decoding for centuries. Is it an elaborate hoax, a lost language, or a sophisticated cipher protecting a forgotten science? Its very existence is a testament to the enduring power of the encoded symbol. This dual nature of symbolism, as both a clarifier and an obfuscator, reveals a profound truth about human societies. We have always had a need to create boundaries around knowledge, to protect sacred truths from being diluted or misused. The symbol becomes a key, and possession of that key signifies membership in a tribe of understanding. It transforms a public image into a private conversation, a silent whisper in a crowded room that only the initiated can hear. The relentless modern quest to crack these ancient codes is about more than solving a historical puzzle. It is a deep-seated yearning to listen in on that whispered conversation, to finally understand what our ancestors considered so precious it had to be hidden from the world. A hidden language of symbols is not just a historical artifact, it is the native tongue of the human mind itself. In the 20th century, the Swiss psychologist Carl Jung gave this phenomenon a powerful name: archetypes of the collective unconscious. He proposed that beneath our personal memories and experiences lies a deeper, shared layer of the psyche, a universal reservoir of psychic inheritance. From this common wellspring emerged the fundamental patterns of human experience, the primordial symbols he called archetypes. These are not learned but innate. The courageous hero who embarks on a perilous quest, the nurturing mother who represents the source of all life, the chaotic trickster who breaks rules and overturns convention, and the ultimate goal of individuation, the unified self. These are psychic structures common to all of humanity. They are the invisible blueprints that shape our most powerful dreams, our most enduring myths, and our most resonant works of art. This revolutionary idea finally explains the mystery of the silent messengers. Why does the wise old mentor appear in the legends of King Arthur and the Epic of Gilgamesh? Why does the transformative journey of death and rebirth structure stories from ancient Egypt to modern cinema? It is because these are not stories we invent, but stories that live within us, emerging independently across time and culture because they are fundamental components of the human soul. Jungian analysis has been applied to everything from the Brothers Grimm fairy tales to the epic narrative of Star Wars, revealing how Luke Skywalker's journey is a classic hero's path and how Darth Vader embodies the powerful shadow archetype, the repressed darkness we all carry. This psychological framework creates a stunning bridge, directly connecting the carved spirals on ancient stones to the narratives that captivate us on screen today. Our ancient fascination with these symbols is not fading, it is being amplified, finding a new and vast territory for expression in the digital world we are now building. A bitten apple now symbolizes innovation across the globe. The 30th messenger reveals how our ancient symbolic language has not only survived but thrived in the digital age, evolving to speak through the screens that dominate our modern lives. Emojis are the new hieroglyphics, a universal pictographic language that transcends borders. A single smiling face with tears of joy can convey a complex emotional state faster than any sentence, while a heart or a prayer hands emoji carries the weight of genuine human sentiment. These are not frivolous decorations, they are the latest iteration of our timeless need to communicate through image and icon. Beyond personal expression, symbols now drive global movements. The recycling logo, 3 arrows chasing each other in a Möbius strip, is a modern mandala for environmental consciousness, a silent call to action understood in dozens of languages. Corporate branding has become a masterclass in applied symbolism. The Nike swoosh is more than a checkmark. It is an embodiment of motion, victory, and the very spirit of athletic achievement. The Apple logo, a single bitten fruit, consciously or not, echoes the biblical tree of knowledge, positioning technology as the modern gateway to enlightenment and power. Our hunger for meaningful patterns has even colonized our entertainment. Vast online communities dedicate themselves to decoding the intricate symbolism woven into movies like The Matrix or the expansive mythologies of video games, proving that the hero's journey and the archetypes of the shadow and the mentor are as compelling as ever. At the most fundamental level, the digital realm itself is built upon a symbolic foundation. The entire internet, every website, every video, and every line of code reduces to a simple, elegant binary language of ones and zeros. This is the ultimate abstraction, the reduction of all information into a symbolic system of pure duality, the modern echo of the ancient dance between light and dark, yang and yin. This digital flourishing proves that symbolism is not a primitive relic. It is a fundamental and permanent mode of human thought and communication, constantly adapting to new mediums. The 33 silent messengers are no longer confined to stone temples and forgotten manuscripts. They are now speaking in a vibrant, global forum. But with this vast new landscape of connections, a critical question emerges. How can we be sure that the links we see are real and not just patterns we are projecting onto the past? Our natural instinct to find patterns is both a gift and a trap. As we connect these 33 silent messengers across continents and millennia, we must tread with immense care. The field of symbolic interpretation is perilously fertile ground for a phenomenon known as pseudo-archaeology. These are dramatic theories that draw sensational connections without the anchor of rigorous evidence, like the persistent but baseless claim that ancient Egyptians sailed across the Atlantic to build the pyramids of Mesoamerica. Such ideas are seductive, offering a simple, interconnected narrative, but they often crumble under scientific scrutiny. The real danger lies within our own minds, in a cognitive shortcut called confirmation bias. This is our tendency to seek out and favor information that confirms what we already believe, while unconsciously ignoring anything that contradicts it. It can lead us to see profound, intentional patterns where only coincidence or simple practicality exists. Consider the global prevalence of the pyramid. The stepped pyramids of Egypt and the towering temples of the Maya do share a striking visual resemblance, yet the most logical explanation is not a shared architect, but a shared engineering problem. The pyramid shape is fundamentally the most stable and logical way for a pre-industrial society to build a monumental structure that reaches for the sky. This is a classic case of convergent evolution where different cultures facing similar challenges arrive at the same elegant solution independently. A responsible interpretation, therefore, cannot stop at the symbol itself. It demands a deep dive into archaeological context, what was found buried alongside the artifact. What do the settlement patterns tell us? It requires the hard, verifiable data of carbon dating to establish a reliable timeline. And above all, it requires a profound respect for cultural specificity, acknowledging that a spiral might mean rebirth in one culture and simply water in another. The ultimate challenge is to hold two seemingly contradictory ideas in our minds at once. We can marvel at the stunning parallel between the Greek Ouroboros and the Chinese dragon chasing its own tail, while still acknowledging there is no historical evidence of a direct cultural exchange between these two civilizations. We must learn to distinguish between a compelling symbolic parallel, which speaks to the universal structures of the human psyche, and a historically demonstrable connection, which requires proof of contact and influence. This does not diminish the power of the symbols. In fact, it makes their independent emergence all the more profound. It suggests that these forms are not borrowed but arise from within, a native language of the human soul. A critical and questioning mind is not the enemy of wonder, but its most essential guardian. It ensures that the beautiful tapestry we are weaving is made of strong, historical threads, and not just the alluring, fragile silk of our own desires. With this essential caution as our guide, we can now step back and attempt to see the entire tapestry these messengers have woven. These 33 threads weave together into a single, breathtaking tapestry. The spiral, the circle, the world tree, the serpent, these are not a random collection of ancient art. They are a coherent symbolic vocabulary, a silent language developed to answer the most profound questions every human being must eventually face. What is the nature of life and death? How do we find order in a world of chaos? What is our true place within the vast cosmos? This intricate network of symbols forms a grand puzzle, and when the pieces are assembled, they reveal a stunning truth. Our ancient ancestors, separated by impassable mountains and uncharted oceans, were not nearly as isolated as we once believed. They were psychologically and spiritually connected, not by trade routes or migrating tribes, but by the very architecture of the human mind itself. The same dreams, the same fears, and the same awe when looking at the stars seemed to arise spontaneously across the globe. Each culture used its own local materials, its own myths, and its own artistic style, but they were all drawing from the same deep well of symbolic understanding. This is why a symbol of rebirth like the Ouroboros could coil into existence in the dry heat of Egypt, and also in the philosophical schools of ancient Greece. It is why the concept of a world axis, a central pole connecting heaven and earth, could be envisioned as a great ash tree in Scandinavia and as a stepped pyramid in the jungles of Mesoamerica. The 33 messengers are not evidence of a single, lost mother culture, but of a shared human experience, a collective dreaming that has shaped our art, our religions, and our most fundamental understanding of reality for tens of thousands of years. This synthesis reveals a profound and beautiful unity lying just beneath the surface of our apparent diversity. So what does this mean for us today, living in a world that often feels more divided than ever? It means that the most ancient parts of ourselves still remember this connection. The symbols that resonate with us, whether in a movie, a video game, or a piece of art, are not random. They are echoes of that old, shared language, reminding us that the lines we draw on maps are recent inventions. The real boundaries are far more permeable, woven from the timeless threads of myth and meaning that connect every human story into one. We live in a world of relentless noise and fractured attention, yet a simple spiral carved in stone can still quiet the mind. Why do these ancient symbols hold such power over our modern psyche? They communicate in a language far older than words, one that bypasses our busy intellect to resonate directly with the subconscious. In an era of overwhelming information and deep existential uncertainty, these 33 messengers offer us something precious, anchors of timeless meaning. They whisper of natural cycles in a culture obsessed with linear progress. They remind us of fundamental unity when we are surrounded by messages of division. They point toward the sacred in a world dominated by stark materialism. Engaging with these symbols is not a passive act of historical study. It is a form of active imagination, a profound way to dialogue with the deepest layers of our own being. When you contemplate the Ouroboros, you are not just looking at an ancient drawing, you are confronting the eternal cycle of death and rebirth within your own life. When you trace the path of the labyrinth, you are navigating the twists and turns of your own personal journey. These symbols are not dusty relics to be locked away in a museum. They are living tools forged in the fires of our shared human experience, ready to aid in our own personal and collective transformation. This exploration of the silent messengers now reaches its end, but the real conversation is only just beginning. The symbols have delivered their message. The question now is what we will do with it. This whirlwind tour of human consciousness reveals a stunning truth. Our shared history is not written only in grand monuments and epic battles, but in the quiet, persistent language of these 33 symbols. From the spiral that promised the sun's return at Newgrange to the intricate mandala guiding a monk toward enlightenment, these messengers form a hidden network, a silent conversation that has spanned every continent and every age. They speak of our universal hopes for rebirth, our fears of the unknown, and our profound questions about our place in the cosmos. While our technologies have evolved from stone tools to smartphones, and our societies have transformed beyond recognition, this exploration proves something beautiful. The core of what it means to be human, the fundamental awe and inquiry that defines us, remains remarkably constant. This is not the end of a story, but an invitation to begin a new way of seeing. Look closer at the world around you. Notice the logos on your devices, the patterns in the architecture of your city, the recurring shapes in the art you love. The ancient language of symbolism is not a relic. It is alive and well, still whispering its timeless truths in our modern world. The messengers were never truly silent. We simply need to remember how to listen. We would love to hear which of these symbols resonates most deeply with you. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your own curiosity is the final key to this ancient code. If this journey into the hidden language of symbols has sparked a new way of seeing, you can carry the exploration forward in your own life. The works of thinkers like Carl Jung, Joseph Campbell, and Mircea Eliade offer deep wells of insight, mapping the very archetypes and mythic patterns that give these symbols their enduring power. The next time you walk through a museum, let your gaze linger on an artifact. Look past its age and material and ask what silent message it might be conveying. Is that a labyrinth on a Minoan pot, a serpent coiled on a Celtic torque, a world tree supporting the heavens on a Norse tapestry? You might even begin to notice these forms emerging in the landscape of your own dreams, where the subconscious mind speaks its most fluent symbolic tongue. This channel is dedicated to unraveling these historical mysteries, and your engagement is what brings these silent conversations to life. If this deciphering of the 33 messengers resonated with you, please give this video a like and subscribe for more journeys into the forgotten corners of our past. But most importantly, share your own thoughts and discoveries in the comments below. What connections have you found in the world around you? The conversation, after all these centuries, now continues.